I opened my phone and sighed loudly. 20 calls again today. The screen shows a large number of incoming calls. All of them are from my mother-in-law. She left several messages on my answering machine, all demanding money. Where is the $3,000 for my husband's hospital bills? We can't live like this. You're abandoning me. You heartless wife. I'll never forgive you. You should transfer the money to my account as soon as possible. I opened the voicemail with a completely cold feeling in my heart. What in the world is this person talking about? Does she really not think we don't know? I picked up my phone with the intention of putting an end to all this. My name is Megan. I'm 30 years old and I work as a freelance web designer. I've loved drawing since I was a child. And after graduating from high school, I enrolled in a design school. After graduation, I worked for a production company, but left 2 years ago and started working as a freelancer. At the time, I was quite reluctant to quit my job, but it was my husband, Robert, who gave me the push I needed. I met Robert 5 years ago, and after 2 years of dating, we were now married. After a year of being a married couple, I began to worry about my career and asked him for advice. Hey, Robert, I don't like the way the company is structured, and I'd like to start my own business. Is that too risky? Of course not. There are plenty of people working freelance nowadays. That may be true, but if it's just me, it's fine. But now I'm married and living with you, Robert. I don't want to trouble you. It's something you can pursue because you're married. You're not alone. If you fail at starting your own business, wouldn't it make you feel a little better to know that I'm there for you? I think you should do whatever you want to do. You're still young. And if you fail, you can start over as much as you want. These words from my husband encouraged me to take this opportunity to make a decision to turn my life around. When I first started freelancing, things didn't go well, and my salary was zero for days on end. Even so, I used the social media and advertised on my blog and website. And gradually the number of requests for design and restoration work increased. 2 years have passed since then. And what started out as cheap restoration commissions have now grown to several $100s per commission, sometimes even $1,000. Of course, there is joy in the constant flow of work. But more than that, I was filled with gratitude to my husband. Then one day, I was working during the day when I received a call on my phone from an unknown number. I answered the call, taking into account the possibility that it was a work-related call, since it was not blocked. Yes, hello? Then I heard a familiar voice on the phone. Oh, hello, Megan? It's Linda. Linda? How did you get my number? I asked Robert for it. I need to talk to you for a minute. Can you hold on a second, please? I quickly opened my phone to find a message from my husband. When I checked the contents, it said, My mom asked for your contact information, and I gave it to her. And it also included my mother-in-law's phone number. I put my phone to my ear again and continued talking to my mother-in-law. I'm sorry, Linda. I didn't check the message from Robert. It's okay. I know you're busy at work. Robert told me that you've been busy with more and more work since you started freelancing. Well, thankfully, with Robert's support, I've been able to do what I want to do. Wow, that's just perfect. Huh? I was curious about my mother-in-law's expression, so I asked her about it, and she immediately opened her mouth. Actually, I haven't told Robert yet, but his father, Stephen, is not doing so well. What's wrong with Stephen? He went to the hospital the other day and they found out he had cancer. And he said he didn't want Robert to find out about it. Oh, so that's what happened? Oh my gosh. Shouldn't he get treated as soon as possible? Yeah, I know. But I don't have any income. And his savings. Well, he built you guys a house when you got married. So now he doesn't have any. She's right. The house we are living in now was billed by my father-in-law as a wedding gift. He didn't say anything about the money. That's why my husband and I didn't think his savings were that low. We never imagined that he would be unable to treat his illness because of the house he built for us. As I was feeling sorry for him, my mother-in-law continued, "I'm sorry, but I'd like you to help pay for Steven's treatment." "What, me?" "We've already spent most of our savings on your new house. And Steven doesn't want Robert to know he's sick." "But I think it's better to let Robert know about the illness than me." "I'm just trying to be considerate of Steven's feelings. Come on, Megan. If you're so busy every day, you must have lots of income. I mean, I'd be lying if I said I didn't make a lot of money. I'm making many times more than I did when I was working in the office. But I'm the only one who knows about my father-in-law's illness, and I'm the only one who has to pay for his treatment." While I was thinking about this for a while, my mother-in-law followed up with a sigh. "Megan, if we can't get Steven the treatment he needs, it could get worse. What would Robert think? Do you know what the worst case scenario would be? I wish I could count on Robert too, but Steven doesn't want to." "But, Megan, you're the only one I can ask. I'm begging you, please, pay for his treatment." After that, my mother-in-law asked me for help several times, and there was no way I could refuse. I wanted to help my father-in-law, so I decided to accept the offer of assistance. "I'll send you the amount and account number later, so please transfer the money as soon as possible," my mother-in-law said and hung up the phone. A sigh escaped my mouth as I finished the exchange. Was this really the right thing to do? But if I hadn't provided the money, Steven would have. He's been good to me since we were first married, and I want him to get better somehow. I can't discuss my father-in-law illness with my husband because I have promised with my mother-in-law. The next day, I received a message from my mother-in-law with her bank account number and a request for $500 to be transferred to her account. The initial $500 was increased to $1,000 2 months later, and now, 6 months later, it has jumped to $3,000. I was beginning to have my doubts, as I should have expected, because the costs were so high. Unfortunately, my parents-in-law's house is far away, and I can only visit them once a year at the end of the year, but I have to work. And if I took my husband with me, he would find out that his father is ill. Since my father-in-law himself says he doesn't want Robert to know, I have to avoid that at all costs. However, sending $3,000 every month is a lot to ask for, so I called my mother-in-law. "Excuse me, Linda. Sending $3,000 every month from now on is indeed..." "How can you say that, when Steven is doing his best to get better?" My mother-in-law's question made me flinch. "But it doesn't cost that much just to go to the hospital, does it? Do you really need $3,000? What a terrible thing to say. I'm telling you, Steven has been in the hospital for a while now. That's why we need the $3,000. I feel bad for asking too, but I don't know who else to turn to." On the other end of the phone, my mother-in-law started bawling. I couldn't question her any further, so I had no choice but to hang up the phone. I don't know what to do now. I'm worried about my father-in-law, but it's going to be hard to keep transferring $3,000 for years to come. I felt bad for him, but I knew I had to talk to Robert. That night, I decided to confide in my husband. He came home after 8 p.m., and I immediately started talking to him. "Hey, Robert, it's about your father." "My dad? What's wrong?" "I was wondering if you'd like to go see him? Maybe this weekend?" "What's going on? It's the end of the year in a few months. And then we'll go visit anyway, right?" "No, but by then the cancer..." My husband's eyes widened and asked me questions. So I told him that my mother-in-law had called and that I was transferring a large sum of money every month. Then my husband hurriedly took his phone and started calling my parents-in-law's landline. My father-in-law doesn't have a smartphone, so that's the only place he can be reached. But no matter how many times we called, there was no answer. I suppose that's just as well. According to my mother-in-law, my father-in-law is in the hospital. So I called her and she didn't pick up, which made me nervous. We decided to go to my parents-in-law's house on the weekend. My husband rang the intercom as soon as we arrived. As we waited impatiently for my mother-in-law to come out, an unexpected person appeared at the front door.
Oh, Robert and Megan. What's going on?
I was so surprised to see my father-in-law in front of me that I was at a loss for words. Confused, I tried to desperately squeeze out a few words. Stephen? Why aren't you in the hospital?
In a hospital? How could I be in the hospital when I'm too healthy to have a medical checkup?
What does he mean? Oh, is, Linda here? I need to see Linda.
What?
I need to check something with Linda. She told me that you had cancer, and I've been giving her thousands of dollars a month in support. As soon as I said all that, my father-in-law frowned. He thought about it for a moment, and then he invited us in. But no matter where I looked, my mother-in-law was nowhere to be seen. In fact, there was no one there but my father-in-law. Where is Linda? I asked, and my father-in-law bowed his head in apology. I was puzzled as to what was going on, but my father-in-law began to speak slowly.
Actually, we're spreading right now and thinking of divorce. She's been spending all my savings in my account.
No way! But Linda told me you had cancer, and I was transferring $3,000 every month to pay for your treatment and hospital stay. I called and no one answered the phone, so that's why we came today.
That's all a lie. I don't know where she is now, but we started living separately about 6 months ago. I didn't want you guys to worry, so I kept it quiet. The phone at home just broke the other day, and I'm trying to fix it.
So you're saying that Linda's whole story is a lie?
Yeah, that's right. She probably lied to get the money transferred to her, and she's probably living off of it somewhere right now.
I was speechless at the truth. I had no idea that my mother-in-law had been deceiving me for 6 months. The moment I realized what had happened, my blood started to boil. I couldn't believe it. That it had all been a lie. She told me that Stephen's savings account was empty. But in the end, it was her who spent the money. This is unforgivable. I'll never transfer any money to her again. I couldn't stop being angry at the fact that she lied about my father-in-law being sick and used me for her own convenience. After talking it over with my father-in-law and my husband, I decided to stop any more transfer to my mother-in-law. We also decided to ignore any contact from my mother-in-law. Even after a month had passed since I stopped the transfer, my mother-in-law still called me every day. She was so persistent that I set my phone to silent mode and went about my business. The number of calls from my mother-in-law increased day by day, and on this particular day, I opened my phone again and sighed heavily. There were 20 calls today, and the screen would show a large number of incoming calls. All from my mother-in-law, of course. Several of them had messages left on the answering machine, all demanding money.
Have you paid my husband's hospital bill of $3,000 yet? We can't live like this. Are you going to abandon us? You heartless wife. I won't forgive you. You should transfer the money to my account as soon as possible.
I opened the voicemail with completely cold feeling in my heart. What in the world is this person talking about? Does she really not think we don't know? I guess it's not a good idea to keep her on her toes any longer. Determined to put an end to all this, I picked up my phone and called my mother-in-law. And my mother-in-law answered the phone as if she had been waiting for me. Hello.
Why are you ignoring my calls? Don't you care about Steven?
I don't think she realizes that my husband and I already know the truth. I responded in a nonchalant manner. Linda, please come down.
How can I be calm? If you don't transfer the money, Steven will be kicked out of the hospital.
What are you talking about? Isn't Steven fine?
Huh? Megan? What are you talking?
You lied about the cancer in the first place. Did you think that since we live so far away, we wouldn't find out? My mother-in-law must have sensed something bad from what I said. Her bossy attitude disappeared, and she became somewhat distant.
Megan, I'm sorry, but I think I misspoke. Steven is not actually in the hospital, but it's true that he has cancer, so...
Oh, I see. Steven said he was completely healthy though.
Yeah, no, just wire me the money. Otherwise, we can't survive.
You mean you can't survive, right? You've been spending Steven's savings, and now you're trying to rip me off too.
How do you?
Because I talked to Steven in person. He was a little plumper than when I saw him at the end of last year. He says it's because he's less stressed now that you're gone. Even my mother-in-law started to wince when I told her that much. I knew I was wasting my time talking to her, so I said, I'm not going to do what you say anymore. I have no intention of helping you or having anything to do with you in the future. So please, don't contact me again. Oh, and I will charge you for all the money I have transferred so far.
Wait a minute. If you do that, my life will...
I don't care about that. Steven and Robert are fed up with you. They want nothing to do with you ever again. So, from now on, you're on your own. Goodbye.
Megan, wait a minute.
I interrupted my mother-in-law, who was already in the middle of a sentence, and I hung up the phone. I blocked her number and cut off all relations with her. Afterwards, my father-in-law and mother-in-law officially divorced. I consulted a lawyer and demanded full repayment of all the money I had transferred to my mother-in-law. Apparently, my mother-in-law had contacted my father-in-law to ask for a loan as well. And thanks to him, we were able to locate her current address. Since it was too much to pay back in one lump sum, my mother-in-law had to go to work. She has been a housewife all her life, and there is no way she can get a full-time job now, so she is working several part-time jobs to make ends meet. I hope that she will spend the rest of her life paying back the money and reflecting on her own actions, but she is still as busy as ever. Now that my mother-in-law is gone, my days are back to being peaceful. My husband and I are talking about scheduling more frequent visits to my father-in-law's house in the future. While my father-in-law is still in good health, I want to show him as much filial piety as I can.